Today's video is brought to you by PicDrop. PicDrop have created a seamless, hassle-free way of sharing images between yourself and your clients or your family. There are no logins that are required from the other sites and no back and forth with all that email. Just a simple, streamlined, hassle-free experience. To check out PicDrop for yourself, click on the link in the description box below and enjoy a free trial. How's it? Imagine that you are an internationally renowned photographer and you're jetting over to the US to go and take some photographs of a Hollywood icon, Charlize Theron. Now, everything's been arranged, it's all booked and stuff. And then at the last minute, you get there and it turns out that, Charlize doesn't actually like where the venue is set for this photo shoot. So very quickly, you have to decamp, you come up to something else. Then, okay, we've managed to get a hotel room. And then she doesn't like the outfit. And that all kind of leads to an iconic photograph that I first came across, I don't remember when, must have been a while ago, but it is this lovely photograph by Vincent Peters. Charlize is there, she's got this beautiful light on her, she's just at the hands, just everything right. It's got this kind of wonderful flow. And of course, according to the story, and this is a story that was recounted by Vincent Peters himself in Professional Photography magazine, that this photograph was never planned. It just kind of happened in the moment. So that was my entree into Vincent Peters' photography. And I've always been, since I first saw it, seduced, and I think seduced is the right word here, by the tones in his images, by the sculpturalness of the photographs. I mean, look at this photograph of Mila Jovovich, right? Wow, that is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. Everything about it just reminds me of kind of like classic Hollywood. Those glamour images, the George Harrell, that kind of sort of era. They look beautiful. I keep waxing lyrical about how beautiful they look, and they do. And on the face of it, it might be easy to sit there and go, do you know what? Right? Oh, Alex, these are only awesome because of the person who's in them. Like Charlize Theron. If I photographed somebody in the corner, draped in a bed sheet, right, it wouldn't get nearly the kind of sort of kudos that it would with when you have books full of famous people, right? But there's more to it. That you can't just. There are many people who take photographs of celebrities that you don't know their names, because those photographs I feel are fairly average. There's an average photograph of a celebrity. You can't just photograph a celeb and have an amazing image, because the person themselves is not enough to carry it. But when I look at Vincent Peters' work, especially the black and white photography, initially, I kind of go, all right, so it's the lighting that is all the cool stuff. It's this, those very bright lights that he's using. These are all, they are Fresnel lenses on I did some research on this a little while ago, and I've totally forgotten, HDMI. They're not HDMI. That's totally HDMI. They're those the kind of lights that you would see on an old Hollywood movie scene with the Fresnel lenses. So if you're not familiar with Fresnel, they're the ones that have that kind of that ridge, that sawtooth effect, because that stops the light from bouncing everywhere, gives a bit of a focused look. And what happens is when you have that focused look, that you get very sharp shadows. Now, that's what I believe makes these photographs of Vincent Peters look so stunning. It's not the toning. It's not the black and whiteness, right? It's not the person. It is the light and the shadow. And more importantly, it's the shadow. There's a thing in photography that people talk about light all the time. Oh, the light, the light, the light, the light. And every time you have a light, there is a shadow. And shadow is what makes the light come alive. I've talked about this in the workshop that I ran at the beginning of the month, that you have this wonderful idea that shadows bring concepts and feeling and mood and texture and shape and form. They bring so much to photography, and yet people tend to, I think, be either afraid of them or not use them to their fullest extent. And I've got some photographs here. There's always picking this up. This is a heavy book as well. Actually, all of Vincent Peters' books are heavy. All right, Christian Bale. Wow. Okay, lovely image. But there's one particular photograph here where the shadow's running across his face, and it just, you kind of, I think you put it into, maybe a bunch of sort of first year students or somebody who's just learning photography, and they'll go, but there's a shadow on the face, right? Because it's a portrait, so we're not supposed to see the person's face, and you're missing a point. That shadows bring mystery to an image, because shadows obviously can hide things. Look at this photograph. That is mostly shadow. It's just mystery. There's a face. Just looking there, we have Christian Bale's expression. What's he thinking about? There's a very small little pinprick in his eyes. That's how you can recognize that there's it's a very hard light source, because it's a very tiny little catch light there. And it just feels so much more interesting because of that blackness, because of those shadows. The shadows also are defining his face. They're giving his face some shape and some form. If you think about those images that you see often these days with the light, like right now, the light is coming straight into my face and a bit down. And my face doesn't have too much shadow to it, right? But if I bring this over here, right, now my face has a bit more kind of to it. Bit more sort of angular shape and form, but it's a bit tricky. And if I bring it right now, it's just complete dark, right? So if I bring this over here, boom, okay, that's how easy. I mean, the little tricks that you can bring in. So if you want, you're looking at Vincent Peters' work, and you go, okay, well, I like this sort of feel. How am I going to do it? Then you go, right, hard light sources. That brings it in. And I mentioned earlier at the beginning about this kind of Hollywood feel about light sources, about these I want to say Klieg lights. Maybe somebody knows the correct words. I could go and look them up, right? But that would make this feel like it's kind of a really planned sort of thing. And I want some interaction. I want to be told things, because then now this way I'll actually remember. So I look at this, and recently I was talking about inspiration. What people draw, when they're looking at images and they're bringing in ideas and things of that nature. And certainly when I look at Vincent Peters' photography, I get the feeling that this is somebody who has spent a lot of time studying the work of people like George Hurrell, that kind of 1920s, 1930s Hollywood glamour sort of look. The lighting feels very of that kind of style. It has that sumptuous sort of look. It makes, for me, these film stars look glamorous. That's the point here. When I look at Vincent Peters' work, it all feels very glam. It feels like these aren't necessarily, although of course they're contrived, they're set up. I mean, these are photo shoots that have been sort of sculpted and scripted and what have you, but they have that kind of feel to them that, even though it is a set, that the people inhabit this kind of world. If I look at like George Hurrell's images, then I kind of go, it feels like these people would naturally be there, in repose on a chaise lounge or something like that. And then you have Courtney Love, in front of some flats there, and there's some powder paint around, and she's got like a top hat. All that kind of feels like it fits the person. I was going to say it feels natural, but this is the point. This is not realistic. This is not gritty realism photography. It is escapism, but not so far away as to feel like David LaChapelle, for example, right? That's very much into escapist territory. Out of all of the things that I struggle with in photography the most is working with hard light. And I look at these pictures of Vincent Peters, of all these people, you know, and he makes it look so effortless. I'm reminded of Herb Ritts as well. Herb Ritts used to use California midday sun, very hard angles. And this photograph here of Cameron Diaz, right? Cameron Diaz, very hard light and stuff like this on the sides. Oh, it is so hard for me to do that. And it is funny, he says, feeling like that, because you kind of, you know, you sort of think, oh, you know, photography, it's not that. But it's one of those examples where everything, it looks simple, but it's deceptively hard when you try and do it. All right? I've tried to replicate some Vincent Peters work, and I think if I had, like, you know, a month or two, I could start getting a bit of a handle on it, and I had the right lights and all that kind of stuff, because that's where it all starts, is the right lights to get the emulation. You can't just stick a honeycomb on this, on a lamp and expect it to look like that. I think you really need a Fresnel, and you need all this kind of stuff. And again, you know, I could be wrong, but that's where I'm looking at these images, breaking it down. The shadows, especially, are giving me clues to look to. And it's like a recipe that when you look at a photograph, you need celebrity, right? So that's we'll wheel in the celebrity. You need, I think, okay, not a celebrity, but you need somebody who I think feels comfortable in front of the camera, who feels relaxed, you know, who can actually play a game rather than being a model specifically, which is a very interesting sort of way of describing it in my head. But I see lots of pictures of people who take pictures of models where it's quite clear that the model is just modeling. It's a very ham-fisted way of describing it, isn't it? But I think you've seen them, right? It's like kind of, I'm a model, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to make shapes. Whereas you want somebody who's involved in the process with you, right? Who knows what looks good, but also knows how to make it look natural. If you're interested in finding out about that kind of approach and what have you, then, you know, let me know. Maybe we can put something together. So that's kind of, so we need model, we need lighting. Okay, we need lighting that works and modifies, understanding what's going on, right? Don't really need a gridded strip light. Don't really need a big old, you know, softbox. It also is a very tiny softbox. I probably need some reflectors, a little reflector sort of hiding here. Hello, right? And things like that. There's definitely some hairlight going on. There's a little bit of blue you may have noticed here. You know, those kind of things. So you're looking at, you're putting it together, you're reading the image, you're going, okay, all right, I've got that. The wardrobe. I think this is a somewhat unappreciated part of taking portraits like this, is think about the clothing, right? There's a photograph here, which also is one of my favorite Vincent Peters images. Now look at this, I'll stick it up on screen. Had she have been wearing like a strappy top or a turtleneck or something that had a pattern on it, whatever, it ruins the image. Because now there's stuff here that's competing with the face, opposed to, remember we talked about shape and the form, because the light is sculpting out her collarbones. Look at that, it's beautiful. The shallow depth of field is bringing her eyes straight in. And again, that tiny little catch light. And then the expression. Oh. They're so beautiful, but they're so hard to do. It's just like, oh. You know, so you got all those kind of things. So think about the wardrobe. Wardrobe plays such a role. Keep it simple. Keep, you know, things like Charlize Theron. It's a blanket. That's it, right? Don't dress people up if they don't need to be. Keep things simple in your photographs, and it will go miles to making your portraits, especially because you're gonna dress a tree, right? You make your portraits a lot more focused, on point, a lot more easy to digest, to get into, be invited into the image. Because nothing, certainly for me, repels my eye more or makes me just want to jump to the next picture, then lots of busy patterns, lots of shapes and swirls and, you know, paisley or stripes or polka dots. None of that looks pretty cool. All right, simple colors. George Hurrell, I've mentioned him a couple of times in this video, and I'm going to go and see a exhibition of his in DC in June. So if you want to come along on that, let me know in the comments. I'll put a link in the description. But really, you know, I think, you know, I can see his work, his fingerprints all over Vincent Peters' photography. And, you know, when you look at a photographer whose work you enjoy, see if you can find out more about them. See what you can discover. You know, do they have interviews online where they talk about, you know, like the event we mentioned at the beginning with you know, he's flying over to do his photo shoot and then it all goes a bit pear-shaped and end up with this kind of cool photograph. Do they talk about the photographers who inspire them? Do they talk about, you know, images that sort of stuck in their mind as kids? It's the same process as if you were like discovering music that a particular band that you liked. I sort of got into blues because I was introduced to, you know, to Zeppelin and all those sort of people, you know, Black Sabbath and stuff, who were drawing influence from the old blues guys. You know, it's all there. It's available. Look at it. Check it out. Take ideas from the people and make them your own. This particular photograph of Emma Watson with the face paint, you know, the white makeup on, I took that idea and tried that out. I mentioned earlier again about the model who's willing to get involved with you, right? There's a model I used to work with, right? Stephanie, awesome, right? And she was totally into that kind of, you know, of knowing what looked good, but also playing a role and leaning into the image. Anyway, I really hope that you've enjoyed this look at Vincent Peters and the use of the shadow in his photography, and just everything about it is just beautiful. And if you're not familiar with his work, I would highly recommend that you go and check out his website. I mean, there are like hundreds and hundreds of pictures on there. It is just awesome, and it's sumptuous and beautiful, and I love it. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. It has been an absolute pleasure. If you want to check out things about like George Hurrell and stuff like that, check out this video over here. Thank you ever so much once again, and I will see you again soon.